It's the night before the round of 64. The official bracket officially kicks off. This is episode 194 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy as always. This is going to be a March Madness bracket day one, day two heavy episode. So if you're looking for some NBA lines, we're not really going to talk much NBA or really much news. We're going to skim through how we did last episode real quick, Brett. I did not win my pick of the pod, so I'm at 1-8 still. But I did go 2-1 so far. I got one game in play, which is the Notre Dame Rutgers playing game, and I have those 3 championships, all of which are looking pretty good in terms of the value that they're sitting at now. Duke's the only one that lost value, really. Iowa jumped from plus 4,000 to plus 2,400, I think I'm seeing right now.
Wow, okay. So yeah, that's quite a price change there. So that's good on you, Higgins. That's our count that as like a half W it's the letter V in your scorebook right there so far. And then Higgins, I went 2-2, lost my Levy lock. You lose your pick of the pod. It's because you gave me the honors back. That's it. Permanent honors. You just have to go first. Maybe one of us can find a win that way, Higgins. But I'm done with this shit. Stop giving me the honors.
All right. Well, here's the real question, though. That game was the first playing game of March Madness. So is your bracket officially busted then?
No, I'm all good.
I don't count those games technically.
Technically, I guess. What would it be? The third game, I guess. Technically.
Yes, it is. It is the third.
Yeah.
Game.
So I get
mine
the game
right,
back.
The Indiana pick.
There you go. Good for you. Although, if people could see behind the scenes, you did not write Indiana in the rundown.
Oh, no, I did not. You are right. You are right. Let's move on to our Beginners Boulevard, though. Talk about an important term that some bettors should know about for Thursday and Friday, where there's tons of games going on all day long, and that's chasing. Set up some limits on how much you're willing to gamble with on either of these days, and if you lose it, don't go chasing, which is basically when a bettor finds bets or wagers later on in the day to try to recoup losses from the beginning of the day. Now, while yes, this might end up having a chance at getting you back to even, most often you'll stay in the red, if not go more in the red. It's a very bad tactic in terms of trying to get back to even. It's not the right way of going about it.
Yeah, I'm just betting the house on Thursday, 12:35 p.m. I think
or you can go that way.
I think it's Michigan, Colorado State.
Michigan, Colorado State.
Yeah. The house, the cars, all of it will be on that game, Higgins. And look, then we come back again at 1 and do it all over again. No, definitely important advice here to set limits and to make sure, hey, there's tomorrow. We can come back on Saturday. We can come back Sunday, Higgins. Then there's next Thursday. We're going to have some NBA action during the week. We got some spring training baseball if people are interested in that for whatever reason. God bless you. So, yeah, lots of stuff happening over the next month here.
Yeah, let's jump right into the round of 64 Thursday's games, though. You mentioned the first one, and that's a game I want to talk about anyways. But before that game starts at 12:40 p.m. on Thursday, you still have a chance to jump into our bracket challenge. So make sure to go to our social media at MBBPod on Twitter, at NextBestBet on Instagram, or the Next Best Bet Facebook page. Even check the description. We'll have this link there. Join in it with us and see how you do against us, against other NBB fans. But, Brett, I want to talk about this Michigan-Colorado State game because I think the Wolverines being the 11th seed, that should make them hungry. I understand they did creep into the 64, but they had a lot of drama. They had a lot of eyes on them this year. They were thought to be pretty good, make another run like they did last year, and I would expect them to be able to come out of this round pretty good. -1.5 being slight favorites, even though they're an 11 seed. I get it, and I'm going to take it because I do think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, was not a great season for Michigan. Obviously highlighted low lighted by the handshake line there with
Mm-hmm.
Juwan Howard. So, look, Michigan now has their coach back, Higgins. They're looking to make an impact here in the tournament. And I'll be honest, Higgins, they just strike me as the type of team, they get a mid-major team in round one. Even if they're not as polished offensively and defensively, right? Maybe they can just out-athlete them in that matchup. And then you have some confidence going into the weekend. Anything can happen. But Michigan's a team I'd actually kind of look to upset some teams. They're obviously slight favorites here, but the little number next to them, next to their name, people would be calling it an upset on TV Thursday afternoon, Higgins. So I like your play here, to be honest with you. I do think Michigan is what I'd call an upset candidate, a lower seed beating a higher seed candidate in this tournament, especially the first weekend.
Well, and I was impressed by what I saw in the Big Ten Conference tournament last week. I said that last episode. I'm following up with it again this episode. And in these one game scenarios, you can look at Michigan, who has a guy like Hunter Dickinson, and wonder who's going to stop him. Do they have a guy that can match that size, that talent? And Colorado State, it's going to come down to David Roddy, I think, who is the top performer for them. And I don't know if he can keep up with Dickinson personally. So I'm going to be back in the Wolverines. I think it'll be interesting to see how this game goes to start everything off. It could be a tone setter for sure.
Yeah, going to be a big opportunity for Roddy. You mentioned it, Higgins. I'm looking over at I guess it's a Big Ten game as well, Higgins. Iowa taking on A10 tournament champs Richmond, the Richmond Spiders. Higgins, Richmond hasn't been in the tournament in 11 years. They've got like 7 or 8 seniors slash grad students playing for this roster, Higgins. All these guys kept coming back to be in this opportunity, right? Grant Golden could have left probably 2 or 3 times, either to transfer to a bigger program or go pro. Jacob Gilliard, same type of thing. Nick Sherrod as well. So these guys are all here for this moment, Higgins. They're not going to lose by 10.5 points. Now, I'm not here to tell you Richmond's, hammer them on the money line, do all this. Iowa's a great team. Keegan Murray, great talent, for Iowa. Going to be the best player on the court, no doubt about it. But these senior latent teams, Higgins, I mentioned this is something I like. I like senior guards that play heavy minutes. I like teams that are, there's a little more incentive. Like these one and dones, you're playing for draft stock here. These guys at Richmond, this is blood, sweat, and tears they put into this program. So I think this moment means a little bit more to these guys. Coach has been kind of hot and cold on the hot seat, whatever, right or wrong, So I just think Richmond 10.5. That's a big number, and these guys are going to be fired up to be here.
Yeah, and the A10 conference that we are familiar with talking about on this podcast, I mean, we've given respect to teams like Richmond, like Dayton. We were talking about St. Bonaventure just last episode, I believe. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they can put a game up against Iowa, but I do think the Hawkeyes will still get this. 10.5, though, I'm staying away from all of these double-digit lines personally because, Brett, like we talked about in the NBA, I mean, there's a lot of passion in these games. That's a lot of possessions, and yeah, these are some lopsided seeds right now. But we've seen upsets, we've seen absolute nail biters, and I'm betting on this to be a classic March Madness beginning to the tournament where it's going to be a lot of close games. So I'm going to be betting on a lot more of these close lines, staying away from the potential blowouts.
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair, Higgins. there's some that I don't want to touch. Like, I don't want to touch Kansas in the first round or Auburn, right? Because those can go
Mm-hmm.
either way. But there are some, a 12-5 matchup historically. We see an upset or two on that line per tournament. So,
There's a
this.
Friday game that you and I both would talk about a little bit later, kind of with this as well, that I think I'd break that rule for. But the double digit scenario, 2 possessions, 3 possessions, 5 possessions. I don't know. I'm expecting some tight games here, and that's why like the next game, it's really a 1 to 2 possession game that I'm going to be talking about, and that's South Dakota State, Providence. I think that's going to be a very competitive game as well. I've heard a lot of talk about the Jackrabbits coming out of South Dakota, very high scoring offense, can run with Providence, who has been a very impressive team in the Big East for much of this year. I'm going to back the Big East talent mainly because of the competition that they've played. I think they'll eke out the win. But I do believe that South Dakota State can put it to them, just like everyone's been saying. I don't think that this is going to be a blowout by Providence by any means. I'm back in the favor because I do think they advance. 3 points is the max I'll take them, and I'm getting them at 2.5.
Yeah, look, Higgins, I think Providence is one of these teams that's really hard for us to look at and judge. They've won a lot of good games this year. They've looked like a good team in the Big East throughout the season. But, Higgins, if you just go through their roster player by player, there's a lot of teams that you would say have more quote unquote talent than Providence. So, really good coaching job by Ed Cooley, getting players that fit his system, that play well, that fit their roles really well. But San Diego State has a really good freshman in Zeke Mayo. Their leading scorer is their only senior that plays in Douglas Wilson Higgins. So, San Diego State, really interesting mid-major team. Not the typical upset team with that senior Leighton that's got heavy, 5 guys, 6 guys, 7 guys playing heavy minutes. They kind of spread their minutes out throughout the roster. And look, they've got some sophomores that contribute heavily. I mentioned Zeke Mayo, the freshman, plays big minutes. One of their top 3 or 4 scorers as well again. So I really don't know what to expect in this game, and that's why I'm staying away. But, for you to back the team that's played well in the Big East all year, I think that makes a lot of sense.
This game also, it's the first game of the Midwest region. It's a 12:40 tip-off. It's actually the game that's right before the last one we just talked about, which was the Richmond, Iowa game that you're on.
Yeah.
Both
Yes.
both of them out of Buffalo.
Yes, exactly. And then Higgins, we're each on one more on Thursday, so I'll get mine out of the way really quick, and you can talk a little more about yours. I'm going to the Indiana St. Mary's game, Higgins. Indiana had the opportunity to play on Tuesday, get some of those NCAA tournament jitters out. Tracy Jackson Davis looked great in that game, really good. Xavier Johnson looked under control in that game as well. Indiana 3-point dogs in this spot to St. Mary's. Again, Higgins, I think this is an opportunity for Indiana, kind of just out-athlete, St. Mary's, they're going to have the better recruits on the floor, Higgins. There'll be a little more leeway here with the whistles, wearing the Indiana brand on your jersey. It's a little more money in the pockets of everyone involved in the NCAA if Indiana's brand marches on over St. Mary's. So, look, I just think there are some advantages that are going to go Indiana's way in this one, and they may not necessarily be X's and O's related or execution related. Maybe it's a 6'11 guy blocking a shot, and St. Mary's doesn't have a 6'11 guy. Maybe it's, someone being able to get to a loose ball. Or maybe it's a bad call that goes Indiana's way. And, you can't predict all these things. But I think the 3 points in a game that I think is a toss-up is good value, Higgins.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree, or at least my bracket disagrees with you here. I like St. Mary's here. They impressed me when they beat Gonzaga outright. That's the number one seed in this entire bracket, so I think St. Mary's is good for a win, even though I've talked up the Big Ten a lot, and Indiana's another one of those Big Ten greats, at least typically. I don't know. I think I'd be on St. Mary's there personally, but the game I'm on here actually to finish off Thursday is between Vermont and Arkansas. Arkansas minus 5.5 at plus 100. I like the value there within 3 possessions. And let's not forget that shortly after Georgia won the National Football Championship, there was briefly some talk about could the SEC also win a college basketball championship this year because they were playing some of the best basketball at the time. That includes Arkansas. And so I think they're going to come in and they're going to play a very good game. And you know what, Brett? Also, Arkansas, they're playing against Vermont, who the only impressive win I saw when I looked at their schedule was against Yale, who's also in the bracket because they won the Ivy League. But they didn't face a lot of tough competition, so I don't know how seriously I look at that 28-5 record, and I evaluate them as a true 13 seed.
Yeah, I mean, Vermont's, battle tested. They've been in the tournament before. They're bringing back a lot of seniors. Ryan Davis is a really good player. Higgins leads Vermont in scoring. Look, I think Arkansas is a team that's talented enough to win the NCAA tournament. They may also go out in the first round, playing a team like Vermont. Vermont's well coached, John Beaker, well-respected coach, probably going to be up for some bigger jobs this offseason. May stay at Vermont, but probably going to be up for some jobs, Higgins. But really quick, just to talk a little smack, because that's what we do here between you and I.
Yes,
I don't know how you can say all those nice things about Michigan and say all those mean things about Indiana when Indiana smacked Michigan in the Big Ten tournament.
True.
I mean, oy. So, I think you just take that L, and we can move on to Friday.
All right, let's move right on to Friday.
I'm not hammering you, Higgins. I'm not letting that shit slide.
I'll let you throw the last punch for Thursday's games. How about that?
You're a nice guy, Higgins. I shouldn't just pound on you like that. That's
you're
mean.
fine. You're fine. Let's move on to Friday because you're on a game with a team that I just kind of talked about. I mean, Yale played rather impressive, hung on, beat Harvard 68-66 to get into the dance, didn't they?
Yeah, Higgins, here's my logic on this one, and, call me crazy, call me whatever. Yale, historically, very tough out in the NCAA tournament. Purdue, historically, chokes in the NCAA tournament. Look, all the numbers, everything says Purdue should blow out Yale, shouldn't really be too close. I'm just telling you, historically speaking, because of the names on these jerseys, that is just not going to be the case on Friday afternoon, Higgins. This one's going to be closer than Purdue would like. Purdue probably survives it, right? They're very talented. Jaden Ivey, one of the best guards in the country. Zach Edey, it's way too big for anyone on Yale to stop, really, and they've got shooters with Stefanovic as well. So, look, I think Purdue gets it done, Higgins, but it is not going to be easy.
So what I heard is Yale's too smart to lose by 16.
Yale is too smart. I don't really have a rhyme or reason. Yale is a tough out in March. Teams have problems going up against Yale. Maybe it's a pace thing. Maybe Yale slows it down. Maybe maybe you're right, Higgins. Maybe they just execute at a high level, and they're not caught out of position. Maybe you're right, but they're just a tough out. Teams do not have fun facing Yale in the first round. Now they've survived recently, but they have not been 16-point victories. I can tell you that much.
Well, and at least maybe also some comfort for you, Brett. Purdue has not been good against the spread so far this year. They're 13 and 20 and 1. So a good team to fade, even though kind of all those metrics go out the window, in my opinion. When you go to a neutral site, you go to a postseason bracket format like this, you can look at them a little bit, but they're very different. They're very jaded because of these conferences and how much conference play there is.
I think you're right, Higgins. And, something I actually do look at would be how did these teams perform on neutral sites this year? How did they perform on the
Back in
road this
November.
year? Yeah, how do you perform on the road? Because, these environments, Higgins, especially opening weekend, you're sharing a stadium with, 7 other fan bases. Those fan bases will immediately start rooting for the underdog, make that path a little easier for their team to get through, have a little fun in the arena, waiting for their game to tip off, Higgins. So, it could quickly become an away crowd. And, that also being said, if you're the higher ranked team, right, the higher seeded team, you're probably playing a little closer to home here.
This is in Wisconsin.
So it might
it's in Milwaukee.
Might be a little easier for some Purdue fans to get from Indiana to Wisconsin, but I'm sure those Yale supporters
Yale's
have
got a
their
network
private
everywhere,
jets. Yeah, they got their private jets, and they'll come in from Chicago. That's a quick 2-hour drive from Chicago.
From Chicago?
Yeah, easy peasy.
All right. Well, let's move on to another game. How about that?
All right, Higgins. Well, sure. Let's go USC Miami. USC is a team that was in the Final Four or Elite. Was it Elite Eight a year ago? I think so. I think they were in the Elite Eight a year ago. Really good run. They obviously lost Evan Mobley to the NBA draft.
They kept one Mobley.
Yeah, bring back a lot of talent. Higgins, they've got exactly one Mobley. They've got Boogie Ellis, who was a top 30 recruit in his class at one point. So USC's talented. They've got a good coach, Higgins. I just think no one watches them play on the West Coast. I know you lived on the West Coast, Higgins, so you have some affinity to Pac-12 basketball. But I can promise you, now that you're back on the East Coast, you can admit it. No one's watching the Pac-12. And I think USC's a little slept on here. I think they could be trouble for Auburn in the second round, Higgins. So circle that matchup. I think if Auburn gets through that matchup, Auburn doesn't want to see Wisconsin. Again, it's just a team that flat out executes well. Has been in a lot of tight games, has won tight game. Like, Auburn's going to tense up in these spots, Higgins. So, I got Auburn on upset alert. I think one of the teams that they don't want to face is USC.
I'm glad we're talking about this game because it's at one of those interesting sites. There's always one of those interesting first-round sites that doesn't quite match the region because this is a Midwest region, and you would think, okay, we got a West Coast team, we got an East Coast team. They're playing somewhere in the Midwest. It's equidistant. It's all fine. It's pretty even. South Carolina's not the Midwest, is it, Brett?
No, but, just maybe
First
this
round,
will help.
it's Miami. It's closer to Miami.
Maybe this will help give you some perspective, Higgins. The regions are actually named after the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 spots. So the first round can kind of be wherever. So, just some insight as to how the regions are done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just always find it interesting, though, because they typically still try to stay kind of close to it. I mean, but there's always that one outlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so, Higgins. I think the NCAA does everything as backwards as possible. So I bet we could find lots of crazy examples where like, oh, this is the West bracket and we're tipping off from Ohio.
Like the East bracket being in Milwaukee, which we talked about in the beginning, and we're going to talk about again with Virginia Tech and Texas. Two teams that'll be rocking orange potentially. I mean, only one of them should be rocking orange, but I I like Virginia Tech here. Virginia Tech played strong through the ACC, beat Duke to win the ACC automatic bid, and I think they're gonna ride some momentum at least through the first round. I know that they were an upset to win the ACC, but that's exactly why they have to be riding this momentum a little bit. They're an underdog seed here. Texas at the 6th seed, a little bit questionable to me. I mean, Virginia Tech on the money line, minus 105. I'm going to take that instead of just going with the plus 1.5 because I think they're going to win outright.
All right, fair enough, Higgins. I also have a bet on this game, but I'm not breaking any pillars. Don't you worry. I'm hopping on the over 123. Look, I get it. Both these teams play some good defense, but they also shoot a lot of threes, Higgins. So I think over 123 can certainly happen. All I need, Higgins, is 64-60, and we hit this thing.
Yeah.
I think enough threes will be taken to give me a real shot at doing that.
I think that's absolutely plausible. I think that's absolutely right.
I appreciate it, Higgins. All right, my last bet of the day before we get to your final two. Cal State Fullerton is taking on Duke. Coach K did not get put in Chicago, Higgins. He wanted it. They said no, no Chicago, and we're going to give you Cal State Fullerton, a team that also shoots a ton of threes and shoots them pretty well, Higgins. So, look, Duke has struggled this year. The way you upset a team like Duke is you hit a bunch of threes, and that is the name of the game for Cal State Fullerton. So, give me the Titans plus 19 over the Blue Devils.
See, I'm glad you took this line because, like I said earlier in the episode, Brett, there's not many double digit lines that I'm willing to look at because of the seed disparity and the talent disparity and all that. But this was the one game on Friday that I was seriously considering because Duke has showed their confidence can be cracked. But there's that magic that Duke can have with Coach K. It's his last season, so I was having a hard time. I was struggling with it. I was glad to see your name already on this game, so I didn't have to struggle with it anymore, or else I probably would have fallen onto it. But we're not breaking the pillars because I'm staying away.
Well, you're the best. And obviously, the big question, Higgins, is how many minutes will it take you to find True TV? Because
I found it last night.
there you go. So, okay. So, I found it, and I timed it because I thought it would be more fun to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I found it in about 45 seconds, somewhere around there. Between, like, clicking stop and start on my timer as well as flipping to the remote, right?
I had to go through the guide, but I was scrolling by the page. I did it the old school way.
Okay. So like I kind of had a feeling like I was like, oh, this stuff's like, this is like by FX. Like so I'm like, okay, so I gotta get into like the 650s and then go up. And I just kinda hit up and I eventually got there and I was like, oh, only about 45 seconds. That's not bad.
Yeah, I was right. It ended up being in the 70s, but I did just scroll down page by page until I got there.
Fair enough, Higgins.
There's two more games I want to talk about on Friday, though. They're the late night games. There's a 12 seed versus 5 seed UAB versus Houston that everyone should be considering. I'm not going to be bold enough and pick UAB on the money line, even though I should. I think one of my brackets might have actually done that. But plus 8.5, that's lofty for a UAB team that can run. This team can absolutely play. Houston also has shown that they aren't the big bad team that they were supposed to be coming out of their or out of their conference. Memphis gave them a tough time too. So I think that UAB plus 8.5 is the safe play here. Plus 310 on the money line does look appetizing though. I had to stay away just just for my sanity to try to get some wins on the board.
Yeah. Look, I think this is a very popular upset pick, Higgins. I think a lot of people saw UAB play, saw how explosive their offense can be, and the overriding opinion of Houston is that they regressed a little bit this year from their Final Four team a year ago. But I'll say this: Houston, again, was consistently in the top 25 and towards the top end of that all season. And UAB was not even the 1 seed in their conference tournament. So, look, UAB got hot at the right time, played really well. Obviously, an explosive offensive team, but there's some defensive problems with this team. Kelvin Sampson, really good coach. So I think you're taking a smart risk here. A smart risk. I think, not taking the money line play here. Definitely, you'll have opportunities in the game, Higgins, to fire at that money line.
Absolutely, I will. And, you're right. Houston did stay in the top 25. Some of that may have been undeserved of what I said there, but plus 8.5, UAB. UAB should be able to cover that at least with how they played and caught fire late. I mean, Houston's the. You say that UAB sounds like a popular play. UAB has over 80% of the pick, at least on CBS, from what I'm looking at right now. So there is 19% of people on this 12 seed, but 12 seeds upsetting fives. It's a popular thing to take a chance on or a gamble with your brackets. But I have one other underdog I want to talk about. Colgate in Wisconsin, Brett. It's a 14 seed versus a 3 seed. And Colgate, I've heard some whispers and some rumors about of watch out, they might put up a tough game against Wisconsin. I don't think they're going to necessarily win this one. I wouldn't put them in the bracket like I did UAB over uh, Houston in one of my brackets. But I think Colgate can run with Wisconsin. Wisconsin, not necessarily the high scoring team. They're going to play some defense. I think Colgate can keep it within the 7.5.
Colgate, a really good Patriot League team. Higgins beat Syracuse this year. Syracuse beat Indiana. So, now Syracuse also lost to Georgetown. So, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, didn't make the dance.
Yeah, who knows what to think of Syracuse. But Colgate, obviously talented for their league, have beaten Power 5 opponents, played other Power 5 opponents competitively, excuse me. So I think it's a reasonable shot to take. I will say this, Higgins. I think Wisconsin's getting to the second weekend. I don't know what they'll do from there, but I do think they will get to the second weekend. So I would stay away from this money line for sure. If you want to take a chance on Colgate for the 7.5, well-coached team, gonna play hard, gonna play good, take good shots, right? So there's the opportunity for anything to happen in a single elimination tournament, but this one I don't like as much as the UAB. I think there's more, more behind the UAB play where. Yeah, this is an explosive team. Tons of Power 5 transfers coming in here. Kennedy's coached at a Power 5 level, just like Kelvin Sampson has, where, Langle's more of an up-and-coming guy. And neither of these teams are particularly explosive. Both a little slow, but Wisconsin, probably has the four best players on the court. that's going to be tough. UAB can stake claim to a top 3 player on the court.
It's going to be. I agree. I think Badgers probably do not run away with this one, but end up with the win, make it to the second weekend potentially. If Colgate can escape this one, though, I think they have a chance to make it to the second weekend as well. I think whoever wins this game does make it to the second weekend.
There we go, Higgins. There we go. Those are the takes that sell hot cakes.
All right. And Brett, I'll ask it before we get out of the bracket real quick. What's your Sweet 16 sleeper team in your bracket that you took a flyer on this year?
I'll say this, Higgins. I really don't like Auburn. Auburn is a big fade for me. I think they're an extremely talented team. They've stunk away from home this year, Higgins. So I think USC, because I like USC in my bracket. So USC, I think they can knock off Auburn in the second round. And how about this one, Higgins? Single elimination tournament. Anything can happen. What if, and obviously this is a big what if, but what if that Memphis recruiting class, that number 2 recruiting class in the country, shows up against another star freshman in Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Duran, who is the number 1 recruit in that class over Chet? What if he, puts his stamp on that game? Emily Bates shows up. Looks like the prospect maybe more so from 2 years ago than last year, and maybe even this year. Higgins, I don't know. Memphis could be an interesting game to watch in the second round there, and could put a scare into some people in those brackets. They're a very hot and cold team. I think it's a little bit of a hot take to expect Memphis to win that game and knock out Gonzaga, Higgins. But single elimination, one game, a weird bounce, something bad happens, Higgins. Anything can happen.
I would say that would upset a lot of brackets if Gonzaga goes out that early. That would be for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think it's interesting, right? The narrative there, right? Top freshman, everyone's talking about Chet Holmgren, the top freshman. Oh, I was actually ranked higher than him, and they've. I mean, if any team has athletes, it's Memphis.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'll say my flyer team for the Sweet 16, which it feels weird saying because this was a strong team in the dance last year. Michigan made it to the Elite Eight last year, but they are an 11 seed. So I'm going to treat them like an 11 seed. They're the only double-digit seed that I have potentially making it to the dance, actually. And I think they're a pretty strong option because the Wolverines at 11, that's a surprise a little bit to me when it came out.
That they were in the field, or that
Yeah.
they're yeah.
I thought they were going to be a play-in. I thought they were going to be a play-in. But I don't know. Getting the 11 and then getting the matchup that they got, I think they have a favorable route to get to the Sweet 16.
All right, I like it, Higgins. Go blue and go Higgins.
All right. I do want to talk about one more game before we get out of here, Brett. Shift to the NHL real quick because there is so many eyes on college basketball for the next few weeks that you may be able to find some value in the NBA or the NHL if you're willing to use some of your bankroll and look over there during this college basketball stretch right now because the books, they're going to be focusing a lot on college basketball. A lot of the public's going to be over there too, so there may be some good value that you can find on some slept-on lines. I like a game on Thursday in the NHL. The Red Wings versus the Canucks. Canucks minus 1.5 at plus 125. And it's really pretty simple because the Canucks, they're the 5th best team in the NHL against the puck line. And when they're at home, they're 16 and 13. Meanwhile, they're facing off against the Red Wings, who are one of the bottom teams against the puck line so far this year. And on the road, they're 10 and 18. So I'm getting the Canucks at plus 125 value this late in the season against a team that's proven bad on the road against the puck line. I'm going to take it.
Fair enough, Higgins. I'll be honest. I have no interest in betting hockey while
Well,
all
I'll be
this is
watching
going.
or actually, this game will be near the end of the night, so maybe I'll have it on one of the screens, but there will be college basketball on, not NHL for most of the day.
You know what, Higgins? I will have my eye on the Rangers box score because it is Rangers Islanders, but like I'm not watching. I can't even lie to myself. Like, yeah, I like to think I'm going to be interested in the Rangers Islander game, but there's going to be so much college basketball going on. And, that big time Orlando Magic Detroit Pistons standalone game in the NBA. We all
You
got
had
to
to
tune
talk me
into
off
that.
that game. You had
Yeah,
to
we
talk
all
me
got
off
to.
that game.
I mean, who can turn away from that?
All right. Well, before we get out of here, Brett, the Levy Lock pick of the pod. You said at the top of the show you don't want the stupid honors.
No,
So
yeah, just tee off.
at this point, it should be called the shame, I guess, going first. So it's a
Shame.
blind tee box. I'll take the shot first. We'll see how it goes.
It's not
And
going
I'm
well.
and I'm going back to my Virginia Tech money line pick. The Hokies caught fire in the ACC tournament, were able to come all the way through and beat Duke for the automatic bid. They got the 11 seed to face off against a Texas team that doesn't even have as many wins on the season as the Hokies. Give me Virginia Tech on the money line. I mean, it's two orange teams, so of course I love this game, Brett, as a Syracuse fan, but I gotta back the ACC guy here.
All right, there you go, Higgins. I am hopping on the Cal State Fullerton train plus 19 versus the Dukies. I think, the Blue Devils, Coach K's retirement tour, going to be a little nervous, Higgins. Going to be a little tight. Don't want to go out in round one in the retirement tour, and they have to face a team that's going to come in and shoot some threes, Higgins. So you got to be nervous if you were backing Duke minus 19 in this one. I think, you want to throw them in a money line parlay, say they get to the second round, kind of use some of that Indiana logic I was using, Higgins, where, close call at the end of the game. I think Duke's going to keep those lights on a little longer than Cal State Fullerton. Those Bills just don't get paid the same way when Cal State Fullerton is beating Duke, Higgins, in the NCAA tournament. Less ad money, less everything. So you want to use some of that logic on the money line, that's fine, but that's not going to get you to 19, Higgins. So give me Fullerton on the spread.
Yeah, we've seen Duke play a lot of these high profile games because of being Coach K's last season. And in quite a few of them, the offense has started slow because of those nerves. And I mean, for a plus 19 spread, if Duke starts slow and Fullerton can get a little bit of a head start, that absolutely helps you with that spread. So I said it earlier, there's not many double digit spreads that I like on Thursday or Friday, but that is one that I'm staying off for the pillars, but I do like. So I don't know what that says for your Levy lock. I just wanted to be transparent.
Well, I'm screwed either way, so it doesn't matter. You might as well bet it.
All right. Join our bracket challenge if you're listening to this before it has started. That is at NBB Pod. You'll find it on our Twitter. At Next Best Bet, you'll find it on our Instagram, or you'll even find it on our Facebook page. It should be in the description of this podcast as well. This has been episode 194 of The Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you guys again very soon.